Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
There will be days when we lose faith. Days when our allies turn against us. But the day will never come that we forsake this planet and its people.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. Sorry. I know.
Have you seen Thor in 3D?
No, I haven't seen Thor in 3D. Yeah, I'll start that again, a rewind. Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show on the 7th of July. I'm Stuart.
I'm Andrew.
And that's the 7th of July if you're listening to us live. If you're listening to us on other moons, then it's past that date, as
and
usual.
If you're downloading, it's 2014.
Yeah,
we've now been coming up. This will be 3 years in a month. It's quite scary.
Yeah, and if you listen to it on iTunes, I don't know how the hell you're managing to do that. Please tell us how. So we're here to review films. On this week's show, we have quite a few films in the home release section. In the cinema section, we're cheating slightly with one of the movies up for review. So we're looking at these three films.
Yes, we have Melissa McCarthy returns in Tammy. We have the Transformers back with Michael Bay again, yay, in Age of Extinction. And we have a small British film from Noel Clarke in The Anomaly.
Yeah, and the cheating part is we're reviewing Transformers Age of Extinction, even though it's not officially out until Friday. So technically we should have been reviewing it on next week's show, but we're rebels and we don't care. So we're reviewing it. It's going to be
interesting, as we were saying before the show started, because we have nothing new to review.
Yeah, apart from one film, and I'm hoping that my cinema would actually show it, so it would be a really short show next week if we only have one film to review in the cinema section. But in the home release section, though, this week we have a lot of films to look at. They are...
Yeah, Wes Anderson returns with The Grand Budapest Hotel. We have a, horror, thriller, more thriller than anything in The Sacrament. We have an adaptation of The Book Thief. We have a Greek drama with Miss Violence. We have a Chinese martial arts movie directed by Keanu Reeves, Man of Tai Chi. We have a French horror comedy in the zombie sort of style of Goal of the Dead. And we have a horror film with Absentia.
And on top of that, we also have our movies of the week and TV movie of the week and box office top 10s and other top 10s and news, etc. As usual, you can find us on our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk, and I just noticed that Andrew actually posted up a trailer.
Yes, I did. I put something on the website for a change. I'm working on trying to write up something, but I've just not had this much time to do stuff,
So that's a rare thing, so make sure you check out the website. Email us, mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, Twitter @mondaymovieshow, I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, and Andrew's at EHDVD.
So it's a trailer for a film called Maze Runner. I'm quite surprised that it looks pretty good, and it's another one of these first of a trilogy books adaptations, so we'll probably get, if it does any
4 films.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's kick things off with some movie news.
Shall I go with mine? Because I've just got one.
Yeah, why not?
A bunch of them. Yeah. Okay. Entertainment Weekly has confirmed that male and female actors from the huge casting call earlier this year for the new Star Wars movie have been cast. The casting calls in the US and UK drew over 30,000 hopefuls in person and 30,000 hopefuls online. They've been whittled down to 2 people. Crystal Clark is an American actress who's studying in Glasgow in Scotland. She's appeared several times on stage, but this will be her first actual on-screen acting role. And Pip Anderson, a British actor who has athletics experience in the rooftop running sport parkour. Little other than that is known about the two or what roles they will be inhabiting.
What little is known about people's roles in the new Star Wars movie? That cannot happen, that.
You're really surprised, aren't you?
Yeah, I know that they've delayed filming because of Harrison Ford's accident, so...
Apparently they've delayed filming, but they haven't done anything about the release date, so it's not due to be pushed back or anything, or so they say. I guess we'll see in time.
I know that on Thursdays following the Nerd, Mark was thinking that they should just push it back to May. So, to May 2016 to tie it into May the 4th. etc., and it'll be a
Let me
good
just
time
see,
to
actually.
release it.
Does May the 4th come out? What day is May the 4th next year? May the 4th is a Monday. They'd have to have a Monday release.
That's 2015, so May the 4th in 2016.
Oh, 2016, sorry. Hang
Yeah,
on.
because it is coming out around about Christmas in 2015.
May the 4th is a Wednesday in 2016.
So they could do that, but if they pushed it back that far, it would delay the next film, and then it would delay the film after that. So it would sort of like make it go into a bit more turmoil, because it was rumoured that the next film will be out in 2017, and then the film after that will be in 2019, so they would have to change that.
No, you know what it will be as well, why they won't push it back to around May. Because
why?
May is generally May and October, May and sort of August are the two times in the year when generally Marvel films are now released.
Yeah.
So, because obviously Marvel is also Disney as well as now Star Wars, so they will not want things to be released that will be overlapping and potentially clashing at the box office with each other.
Yeah, it was just that Mark put the point up, the fact that it's confusing Star Wars fans of the fact that the film's coming out at Christmas, and it doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. Who cares? I just don't get that.
Lord of the Rings doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. The Hobbit doesn't feel like a Christmas movie.
Mission Impossible didn't feel like a Christmas movie.
No.
Jack Reacher wasn't a Christmas movie. So
Iron Man 3 was a Christmas movie, and it was released in March.
Yeah, so I don't get that, or it doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. It doesn't feel like that when you go to the cinema, you come out and then you get that still Christmassly warm feeling. I just don't get that. You can release a film any time of the year. It feels slightly strange though when you do get a Christmas-esque movie released in say March, but sort of like non-seasonal kind of films, like a Star Wars.
But you know what will happen with it after it's been in the cinema? It will be a Christmas DVD release.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't think they would wait that long though. 12 months to release it on DVD.
No.
They would release it very sort of like middle of the year kind of thing, so that it can garner more sales. Yeah, it's a cynical place, the movie world, isn't it?
It's just us.
No, it's the movie world. We're just slightly on the cusp of it, looking in, going, "Yep, you're cynical." My news is Guillermo del Toro has revealed that Universal are finally planning to go ahead with At the Mountains of Madness, as long as del Toro makes it a PG-13 or 12A. The film has gone through a lot of trouble with the budget skyrocketing to original actor Tom Cruise dropping out. However, it looks like the project might actually happen.
See, mentioning those two names together, I don't really think that would work, but looking back at Edge of Tomorrow, I would have loved to have seen Guillermo del Toro take on Edge of Tomorrow. He would have really done some crazy stuff in that.
Maybe, but the only slight problem I have, even though I've read the interview with Guillermo del Toro about At the Mountains of Madness, is the fact that the original source material, there is a few scenes in it which are quite graphic. But he has turned around and says there's a lot you can get away with now in a 12-year, which I agree with him.
Yeah.
There is a lot you can get away with that certificate. It's just that with At the Mountains of Madness, it is quite a graphic kind of novel, and it is based on a H.P. Lovecraft thing. So it his kind of stuff is really twisted and dark. And so trying to make a 12-year, that he's really going to have to reel a lot of stuff back, but also try to push as much as he can into a 12-year.
I'm just trying to think as well, what is there, other than Pacific Rim, what has there been that he has done that's been either PG-13 or 12A?
Hellboy.
I can't think of... Oh, yeah, of course, Hellboy. Why don't I think of that? But I'm thinking of other things like... I still haven't watched it, but I know Pan's Labyrinth is not.
It's a 15.
Yeah,
oh, God, no.
Here, and it was an R in America, which is no one under the age of 17 without an adult. It's odd how it works over there, but yeah.
Yeah, so... Right. I didn't want to read this out, but I knew that it was a very slow news week, which it is a really badly slow news week. But I'm going to have to. Because it's just the mention of this name which will actually send shivers down everybody's spine.
Brett Ratner?
Ken Jeong...
Oh, I heard about this, I remember now.
has announced that he will appear in Ride Along 2 after the first film was successful. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the sequel will centre on Ice Cube and Kevin Hart's character going to Miami. Original director Tim Story will also return.
Well, it means at least they're keeping Tim Story away from the Fantastic Four franchise.
Yeah, well, that's gone to Josh Trank.
Yeah, I know, but he did the first. He did the last two of them. I mean, it does mean as well it keeps Ken Jeong away from a lot of things because he's in Community as well, which was cancelled, but then has now been brought back by Yahoo online stuff. So that means he's going to be busy, which means he can't then invade other things. Because talking of things related to what's coming up tonight, he was in the last Transformers film, and his scenes in particular were just outrageously just horrid and horrible. Hated them, and.
Yeah, the worst thing is, though, for me, I don't like Kevin Hart. He gets on my nerves. But mixing Ken Jeong with Kevin Hart, you might as well just walk up to people with a chalkboard and scratch your nails down it. It would be hell, absolute hell. All you would need to throw into the mix there would be Chris Rock and Melissa McCarthy, and you'll have the worst ensemble cast ever created. It's like Satan directing a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. It could be U-Bowl.
Uwe Boll. I've seen one Uwe Boll film which I tolerated, and that's a surprise. And he's making a sequel to it, unfortunately. My final piece of news is reports are circulating that Universal are planning a big screen adaptation of The $6 Million Man, and that Mark Wahlberg is the front runner to play lead character Steve Austin. The reports also claim that Universal have approached Peter Berg to direct.
Now, I don't have a problem with Peter Berg because he is a really good director.
Battleship.
But let me ask you this, and let me say this: in defence of Battleship, it's a terrible film, it's an awful crap, horrible thing, but it's well directed.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
But he did recently that Lone Survivor, which you and I agree on is a film that really does hit you in the gut and keep going, and really effective. So he can bring across good stuff to the screen.
But he still directed Battleship. And he also did...
unforgiving person in the world, aren't you?
Yeah, and he also did Hancock. Which Hancock is okay.
Hancock was okay. I agree that Hancock was okay, but not great, which is why we haven't seen a sequel yet.
We won't see a sequel. Right, UK box office top 10 time. At number 10 is Jersey Boys.
Which I really enjoyed. I thought it was fairly well done. It's not really a musical because it's based on the musical stage play, but it's basically it just takes the story of the Four Seasons and does more of a biopic thing with them, and then has a dance number bit over the end credits. It doesn't have any other dance number bits during the whole film. It has the music because it's telling the history of them, and then the band and behind the scenes, and then how they kind of fell apart afterwards. But it's kind of that it's well acted, well put together. It is well done, and I like Clint Eastwood as a director more recently with all the stunts he's done. But I think it's probably, for me, apart from $1 Million Baby, which I hate, I don't have time to get into that right now though. But Mystic River and Gran Torino, I think this is his weakest film out of those movies because I just think it's lacking more of a oomph to it.
Yeah, before I got into the rest of the chart, Haunted House 2 was only shown on 14 screens, yet it still managed to take quite a bit of money. Took around about £50,000 at the UK box office.
Where did it come in the box office? It was not in the top
15.
10, 15.
But from 14 screens, it managed to take
Haunted
that.
House 3 then, do you think? Is that all there is?
Please no. And number 9 is Edge of Tomorrow.
Well, talking about that earlier on, I mean, Tom Cruise in this, he's perfectly fine. He does the good thing of Tom Cruise on screen, which he gives it his all. You can't deny that he doesn't care about trying to actually act in the films, and he's not the only one who gives it his all. I mean, there's Emily Blunt in the film, does a good job. You have the direction is good by Doug Liman. It's fairly well written. It's based on a comic book, a feature comic book. And I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I think the effects are a bit ropey in certain sequences, but I didn't let that bother me because the narrative and the whole thing of the time loop works in so much that it gets going and going and going. You don't get a second to think about it, which is really where it works very well.
Number 8 is X-Men Days of Future Past.
You said so much about this. We both liked it. I liked it more than you did. Yep. I think it was very well handled because of the fact that it crams so much into it, and it's one of these rare time travel things where it doesn't just travel back in time and then stop. It travels back, travels forward, travels back, travels forward, and cuts between the two events happening at the same time, how one affects the other. And I thought that was very well handled and very smart in the fact that it doesn't get either incredibly dumb or incredibly intelligent that it loses the audience.
and director's cut is coming out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because you could tell there were definitely things they'd stripped out, and you knew there was a storyline involving a rescue of the character of Rogue in the future sequence, which was left out because apparently it slowed it down pacing wise, which I'm glad to see. I'm glad to say we'll get to see that.
Yep. Number 7 is a new entry for Walking on Sunshine,
which I did not like. I'm not a massive fan of musicals. I don't so much. The problem with musicals for me is that I don't, unless I'm really into the music, I don't connect with it. I did see one of the live shows recently of I can't think of the name of it now. I'm sure my other half will message to remind me as she's listening. Yeah. And I didn't get into that at all just because of the fact that I didn't like music. It was sort of 40s music, swing, that kind of thing, which I don't like. And this has pop music, which I don't mind. It's kind of what I grew up with, but I hate it because of the fact that the acting is pretty bad and the singing is just as bad as well. And it's just overall, I think, a horrible job.
Yep, but number 6 is a non-new entry, new entry for Scotland and Ireland. So it's a new entry for Scotland and Ireland cinemas. It's technically not a new entry until it officially releases in England and Wales. New entry. It's bloody confusing. It's How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah. Which we reviewed last week. I won the battle against you on that one because I told you it was going to be in the box office this week. And the thing is, it takes everything they did well in the first film and magnifies it by at least 5-10 magnitude, and it's brilliantly done. Great animation, fun. It's a laugh. The animation looks beautiful in it. By the way, it looks so much even more better than the first one. And I really liked the first one. And the thing as well, they put the character of Toothless, the dragon, has got so much personality in it, even though it doesn't speak, doesn't say anything. It's all in its movement and expressions on its face, and that's one of the biggest things that's just a joy to watch.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I provided the shock by saying that this is the best animated film I've seen this year. Better than From Up on Poppy Hill, and it's better than a Studio Ghibli movie.
My other half just reminded me it was From Here to Eternity, the musical I saw live showing at the cinema. But I didn't like it. I didn't get into the music. I thought the acting was fine. It just didn't get into it because I didn't like the music.
Yeah, and by the way, there is a new Studio Ghibli movie coming soon. There's a new trailer out for it, so yeah, I'll be looking out for that one as usual.
Talking about animation, yeah, you can cover that one because you'll be sort of salivating over that when it comes out.
Yeah, it's directed by the guy who did Arrietty, and I really like that one. So, number 5
Miyazaki,
is
no
Miyazaki. No. He did the last one. He did From Up on Poppy Hill, and that was the last one. So, at number 5 is Chef,
which I really did enjoy, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. Thinking back, it does have issues. It tries to fill its narration with just shots of food sometimes, which is glorious to look at and very nicely handled on the screen. But then afterwards, it's kind of like drinking a Diet Coke. You just feel empty. And I liked it. I think it's well done. I think it needed maybe a little bit more trimming, a little bit more fat added to it, if you will, to use the food analogy. But it's very well handled, very well done, and it is very much a movie of love for Jon Favreau, and it does come through in the film, and it's well acted, brilliant acted, and the soundtrack is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's actually The Wind Rises, not From Up on Poppy Hill. I'm a Ghibli fan, and I got a Ghibli movie
mistake.
wrong.
I will not let you forget that.
I know. At least I know the director of the new Ghibli film is called When Marina Was There, and it's Hiromasa Yonebayashi, who did Arrietty, so at least I can get...
You just Googled it, though.
No.
You IMDb'd it.
I'm going to put up the trailer for When Marina Was There. It's beautiful, but yeah, we're not talking about Ghibli films. And number 4 is Maleficent. Or Maleficent.
Yeah, that's the best name for this. For me, I didn't think it was brilliant. I thought it was okay. I saw it in cinema, which had fairly number of kids in it, which were running around all the way through, so they weren't engaged with it. I think Angelina Jolie is perfectly fine when she's in scenes with other people. When she's acting in front of green screen, I think she's wooden as the sets. She's just awful in those scenes, and that's where they found a weakness in her acting. So she needs an imagination, and doesn't have one in this film.
Yep, I agree with that. And number 3 is 22 Jump Street,
which is hysterically funny at parts, so much so that I almost couldn't breathe at one point. And that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned in a comedy. As much as it may not sound a good thing. Very well done. I'm glad that they did what they did with it, but I'm kind of annoyed now because as much as I wasn't bothered about them having a sequel for the first one, I kind of would like to see them do a third one now. But they haven't because they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the end of this one.
Yeah, well, it's good. At least they're not running the series into the ground. At least it's not going to turn out like The Hangover or whatever, even though the second one I think is worse than the third one. But that's
I was just thinking, I would love to see them do. See, at the end of it, the end credits is all these things of, 23 Jump Street, 24 Jump Street, 25 Jump Street, and so on and so on. I would love to see them do like quick 5-minute shorts or full fake trailers for the films and release them online. Just have have a full 2.5 minute trailer for 23 Jump Street, and then eventually have the one where even Seth Rogen turns up and replaces Jonah Hill in it.
Yeah, maybe. Number 2 was last week's number 1, The Fault in Our Stars.
Still haven't seen it yet.
Brilliantly acted by Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort. I remember their names this time. It does fall into the saccharine category a tiny little bit where they do get Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam, but apart from that you can forgive it because the chemistry between both characters and the way the actors actually portrayed on screen it's handled brilliantly, so you can let it get away with the saccharine stuff, and I did cry twice. So it managed to pull at my heartstrings a little bit, even though I have become a bit more of a softie. And at number 1 is The Creation of All Hell, a new entry from Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's good I can say about this really is I saw it on the same day as Walking on... No, I saw it on the same day as Walking on Sunshine, and I hated Walking on Sunshine more. This, I mean, I did laugh at a couple of the jokes in it because they were good set-up jokes, but nothing to do with the actual character. The character annoys me horrendously. And there was just moments in it where I'm sitting there and I'm going, this should be funny, but it's not, because the film just generally isn't funny. There are jokes in it, but you could take those jokes and put them in any other film and they would work just the same. It's not to do with the film itself. The film is terrible and the story is just boring.
And as you posted in a comment on a post you saw on Facebook, she is going to get his own TV talk show.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why, and that might work for a thing, because you had the thing with Al Murray did it with the Pub Landlord. They took it to a series where he was doing a talk show. You had it with the Mary Whitehouse character, didn't you? I can't remember who does that, but so I mean, they've shown that can work. That might be okay. I don't know that I'm going to watch it, but it might be okay.
You talking about the Carolina Hearn character?
Possibly. I'm not sure who
she was in the royal family, and she had this old woman character who she created in a TV series, and it turned into a talk show, sort of the same kind of thing like Alan Partridge did.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Which means, I mean, that kind of stuff can work, and it also means it keeps them off the movie screens.
Right, let's get into the first review of the night.
Tammy, which is written by Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone. She wrote it, and so did Ben Falcone, her husband, who also then directed the movie. She then stars in it as Tammy, the main character, who is, at the start of the movie, she's having a bit of a downer on her life. She works in a fast food chain where it seems she's sort of had history where she's been late a lot, had problems there. At the start of the movie, she runs over a deer. It ends up in her being later to work again, where she's fired. She comes home early for the day, walks in on her husband, who it turns out is cheating on her with a neighbour. Things kind of going from bad to worse, so she goes a couple of houses along to her mum's, where her mum is there, and her mum and her grandmother are living there. Her grandmother, played by Susan Sarandon, sort of the two of them don't get on that well, and so she kind of makes a thing of that's it, my life's rubbish, I've had enough, I'm getting out of here, I need to go somewhere, can I take your car? And the grandmother, Susan Sarandon playing her grandmother, says, no, you can't take my car unless you take me with you. So the two of them end up grudgingly going together on a road trip, and sort of seeing where it goes from there. And amongst other things, at one point the grandmother ends up arrested, needing money for bail. Tammy decides what she's going to have to do is go and hold up one of the food chains at which she previously used to work at. Here's a clip.
Don't get sassy.
Okay, sorry.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just get pie. You want some pies?
I like pie.
Well, get a pile for you. Get a pile for You change your attitude? I'd like to give you some pies on me.
No, that's okay, thanks. I don't care for him.
God damn it. So what did we just talk about? I have a gun on you. I offered you pie. He likes pies. He's got a gun to his face. Anything I say, he's gonna like. I ask you, you want some pies?
I like pies.
Come on, that's what I'm talking about. All right, put a stack of pies for her, a stack of pies for me. Which one?
I think this is all of it.
Just get over there. Go. Don't walk right toward the gun.
Sorry.
Put pies in there. Put them in. Don't creep up on me like that.
Larry, seriously.
You like apple?
I do like apple, but don't make me... I don't want to have to choose between you.
Just Larry.
Larry, she's telling me to take you out.
I'm a veteran.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing with Tammy. It's not funny. It's just outright.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, well, I have to admit, I'm not. You know where I stand on Melissa McCarthy. She's not one of my favourite actresses. The last film she was in, The Heat, which I absolutely abhorrently hated. It's just, that was an awful film. I'm not going to get into that because we will be here all night. But this, I didn't hate this as much. I just found it particularly lazy. And the thing that's really annoying is it's got a cast that's all strong sort of female actors, but they don't really give them much to do. Because in amongst the cast, as I said already, you've got Susan Sarandon. Kathy Bates turns up at one point later on and gets a little thing to do, but not much. She does have one scene actually, which she's got a good sort of monologue to give to Tammy, sort of telling her to grow up a bit, and you know, this is how life is and such. Which is not fairly. It's kind of fairly decent writing. And then there's certain things that happen along the way, and you've got appearances by Dan Aykroyd makes an appearance where he almost gets a smile. He almost gets a joke out of me at one point at the end. Just a little small appearance. He's got Gary Cole pops up at one point. Toni Collette pops up there. Sandra Oh pops up. And it's a shame because there's a good element of casting here and all the people involved, but I just didn't find it funny. And the thing is that I think had it not been trying to be a comedy, had it actually been a drama, and had there been a couple of things that they'd maybe done differently, especially one thing at point that something happens, you think, oh my god, that's happened, kind of bad, and then it doesn't, and it's funny, but it's not funny. And if they'd done things and made it more of a drama, I would have actually got behind this. I would think I would have enjoyed it a heck of a lot more, because of the fact that I would have been able to care for the character. She's a character at the start of the film, as I say, she's in the down and the dumps, and things go from bad to worse, and you kind of almost start to feel for her. And if they played on that more instead of playing stupid little gags and trying to make laughs out of it, then I think it would have been a successful film. As it is, I found it a bore. At times I was almost nodding off. I just didn't get into it at all, and I didn't like the character. And not nothing against Melissa McCarthy, because I don't like her as an actress. I just don't. She bugs me, especially when she does films like this, and it's just, unfortunately, just a lazy film as far as I'm concerned, and just didn't work for me.
Even though I can't remember the name of the film, but I remember I reviewed a film with her in it, and I said there is a little tiny glimmer of hope there that she could do a film like Jim Carrey. So when Jim Carrey went off to do something like a Truman Show, etc., there is a glimmer of hope there, but it sort of like extinguishes that glimmer when she can't even write a good part for herself.
It's the thing as well that in this there's parts where she's playing the same kind of characters she's played before, where they're kind of characters who go and they kind of just repeat things, but they say things and they do them, and they go, oh well, I'll do this, but I'm not going to do this. I'll do this, but I'm not going to do this. And then they do something and they say something stupid because of the fact they're just ignorant, and it's becoming tiresome. It really is.
Yeah, like I said, it's just, if an actress is writing a film and etc., and they can't write a decent part for themselves, what does that say about the actress's career? If she's writing very stereotypical roles that she's done numerous amount of times by other directors and other writers, if that's how she's seeing herself in the writing that she's doing as well, it holds very little hope for us to try and get a film where we can see how good of an actress Melissa McCarthy could be. Hopefully there is a director out there who can see her as being a decent actress and give her a role, a good meaty role in a drama with maybe these little tiny morsels of dark humour, rather than the stuff that she's doing over and over again.
And the thing is, it's not as if there's not an opportunity, and she's not written a good idea, because it's all about, there is a focus on that whole thing about alcoholism, and her grandmother being an alcoholic. And if they played the drama of that instead of playing the humour of it, I think they could have really made a good, emotionally kind of hard-hitting drama here. They just didn't. They went for comedy instead and cheap laughs, which didn't work.
Yeah, typical Melissa McCarthy. So it's another miss on that front. I just really hope that there is something out there and our minds can be slightly changed. Right?
Maybe by the next movie. Yeah.
Yeah, doubtful. Next up is Transformers: Age of Extinction. Now, like I said in the intro of the show, we're cheating a little bit because the movie's still on its previews. It doesn't officially open in the UK until Friday. It's already opened in the US. It's at an extra couple of weeks over us, to be honest. It took something like just over 300 million in its opening weekend worldwide. It broke
the US alone.
It broke box office records in China as well. A lot of promotion that they've done for China, the Chinese cinema, has been insane. What I find really interesting, though, is the fact that they weren't annoyed with the promotion that they've done for Transformers, yet they're really annoyed the fact that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes has been brought forward by 5 days in China because they think that it's going to take money out of smaller movies, yet they don't mind promoting a movie like Transformers. Hypocrite, slightly. Very hypocritical. But this is directed by Michael Bay. We're not going to get a different director, and when we do it, the series will have ended, to be honest. I don't think he's ever going to step away from the series, Michael Bay, but it's directed by Michael Bay, and this time he's got rid of practically the entirety of the cast from the previous Transformers trilogy because he says he wants to make a new trilogy, and so he's decided to bring in a whole new cast apart from some of the voices of the Transformers. And at the start of the film, it's set 65 million years in the past, and you discover that the Transformers were responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. So everything that you've read in the Bible, everything that you've read everywhere else, that wasn't the case. According to Michael Bay, it was robots. It wasn't involving Scientology, so Tom Cruise is not thinking that it's a big, massive alien. It
did involve spaceships, though, so Scientology got more of it right than the Bible.
Yeah, that's true. But it involved robots and this undiscovered material until when it gets to present day, well, not present day, but present day in the film, that is called Transformium, which got a huge, massive groan from me. But when it gets into present day, the events, it's set after the Battle of the Third film itself, and so Chicago has been leveled and everybody seems to hate all robots, all Transformers, etc. And the CIA has set up a task force which is led by Kelsey Grammer's character, who plays Harold Attinger, who's sent this task force out to obliterate all Transformers with the help of a Transformer in the form of Galvatron, who travels across different galaxies and planets, etc., to try and capture these robots. So while that story's going on, you've got another story which runs alongside it, which involves Mark Wahlberg's character, and he's an inventor. He's got a daughter. He lives in this sort of like dilapidated farmhouse, and he just invents things. He tries to get all technology as much as he can to try and create different robots and things like that. And he even gets some of his neighbours to drop off items so he can fix them or create something a bit different. And during a routine clear-up with a friend in a huge, massive theatre, he sees this huge, massive dilapidated truck, which, with the help of his friend, he buys and he tries to fix up. Ultimately, though, this truck turns out to be something different. Here's a clip.
Covered!
Are you working with lasers? If so, I'm not coming in.
You guys have never seen a truck like this before. Get in here. Lock that door.
It doesn't have a lock.
Look at the hole in the radiator. Look at the size of it. Something blew a hole in it.
Yeah, so?
It's not normal steel. The shrapnel in the engine, it ripped all the connections apart. And watch, and this took some K-genius. You are gonna love this. Want to hook this back to a working battery?
Calling all 101.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's a truck at all. I think we just found a transformer.
So it turns out that the truck is in fact Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, and the CIA want Optimus Prime. They want to destroy him because he is the ultimate Autobot. He is the leader of the Autobots. He's the one who can... I I wouldn't say cause a revolution, but get help from the rest of the Autobots that have gone into hiding in different guises to try and stop what's happening. So when the CIA discover where Optimus Prime is, they send the task force to try and get him. But it forces Mark Wahlberg's character and his daughter, plus his daughter's girlfriend, to go on the run. And with the help... Boyfriend? Did I say girlfriend?
You said girlfriend.
That would have been that would have been much more layering for Michael Bay.
That would have been much more interesting as well, I think.
Yeah, so with the help of with Optimus Prime and Optimus Prime's help from the other Autobots, they have to try and stop an ultimate evil from you might as well say, again, practically destroying the world. Now, the thing with Transformers Age of Extinction is I put up a post on Facebook.
Let me just say, bombshell about to come. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I put up a post on Facebook saying that newsflash, Transformers Age of Extinction is not a bad movie. And I was waiting for a reply, and I was hoping that it would take a little while for a reply to pop up. But unfortunately, it only took 2 minutes for a reply to pop up, and the reply was, "What? You thought Transformers was not a bad film? Is there something wrong, etc.?" Yeah, it's not a bad film. It's a boring film. It really is boring, because I know I saw something from you saying that you were quite entertained in the movie.
Yeah, I was.
I wasn't entertained into the last 20 minutes of the film. I just felt the first 2/3 of the film itself suffered from, in my opinion, Man of Steel syndrome. Now, Man of Steel is not a bad film, but the more you watch it, the more you actually look at the film, the more you realise it's pieced together badly. And its structure is quite bad as well, and it just seems to be flashy on screen. Now, in defence of Michael Bay, he's toned down a lot of the leeriness and the stupidity of the Transformers series. And so he's decided to try and set it with him getting a family man in the form of Mark Wahlberg's character looking after his daughter. You've got much more of a family connection there rather than the loose family connection that he had in the previous films with Sam Witwicky's character and his annoying family. And so he's trying to make it a bit more of a family movie, and it's sort of like adding a bit more turmoil to it, because there is a scene when the CIA do come to his farm and they put a gun to his daughter's head to try and get information out of him to see where Optimus is. And in that way, you're thinking, it's got to make a much more interesting film. You've got to be much more involved with the human characters in this movie. And when it does get to the fight scenes revolving around the huge, massive robots, it's going to be entertaining. That's not the case, though, because I found that the family stuff just grated on me because it's overly used in the film. He's constantly on his daughter's back saying that, he does not like his daughter's boyfriend. He doesn't... think that she should have a boyfriend or practically have a life, to be honest. And so for the first 2/3, it's lacking in anything. I even felt like having the evil bad guy in Kelsey Grammer very underused. His menace is shown every now and again, but that's about it. Stanley Tucci is in the film as well, and he doesn't become sort of the wisecracking character until the last third of the film. And I think Michael Bay saw that he might have grated on people in the first 2/3, and so they need make him really wisecracking, and he grated on me anyway. And so when it gets to the big, huge, massive robots fighting it, I think actually that's where the movie is entertaining. And when you do get to the Dinobots, I was like a little giddy schoolboy again. I was like a little kid, because I loved the Dinobots as a kid. And so when I saw them, I just thought, yeah, this is not too bad. It reminded me of the first Transformers movie, and I just wish he stuck with that for the entirety of the film, because then I would have slightly forgiven him a little bit. I will also say that the music score by Steve Jablonsky is the typical Transformers stuff. You've got Imagine Dragons now in the movie doing some of the other music apart from Linkin Park, so I think the music actually works. So the music is fine, and Michael Bay can definitely shoot a film. The camera movements and the flows of the camera is actually handled brilliantly. He knows how to frame a shot. He knows how to get involved. He knows how to make you feel like you're part of the action. However, he overuses the slow-mo, so he ruins that sometimes as well. So it's more of a miss, but it's not as bad as Dark of the Moon and Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, I agree on that. I don't think that I mean, definitely he still does use too much slow motion, but he's definitely toned it down. There was only sort of a few big sequences where I thought, oh, there's slow motion obviously there, and it was overused. Not like there was in the last one. In the last one, it was ridiculous how much there was, and then especially at the end of Revenge of the Fallen, there was a whole, I think it was literally a whole 2 minutes of the film was in complete slow motion. There's nothing like that so much as that in this. I think the editing is a lot better as well, in that it's not so much quick cuts that you kind of lose where you are in it. You manage to follow it. You're able to follow the action sequences and tell what's going on. There was one bit during an early on car chase where it seemed all of a sudden they went from being in a field to being in a little city, which I kind of went, okay, where did that come from? You know, could have set up a bit better.
Yeah.
There's things like that that are a little bit annoying. But it's the thing of it's much more better tempered, I would say, a direction on this than it has been, especially for the last two films. And the only thing I would say is that it does need trimming, especially in the middle part. I thought there's a huge section in the middle where they're on board an alien spaceship, and it kind of felt that it was just like, oh, that whole bit in there, you know, take that out. There's this bit where they've got being chased by these kind of like the alien dogs out of Predators, but with robot enhancements.
It's sort of like Cerberus split into three.
Yeah, and that whole thing, I felt, you know, cut that whole out. That would have done perfectly. It would have cut the film down by 20 minutes at least, because it's an hour and 45 minutes long. Doesn't need to be that long. Could have taken.
No, it's 2 hours 45 minutes long.
Sorry, 2 hours 45 minutes. Yeah. An hour 45 minutes isn't long enough. It's really long enough nowadays for a film, but yeah. No, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and it could have easily done with that 20 minutes in the middle there. Cut that out, would have been fine. It's still got that whole thing of Michael Bay doing what he does, but just not so toned up. It's not turned up to 11 anymore. It's turned down to, you know, sort of 8, and that makes it a much more palatable film. And so much so that I wouldn't say I loved it, but there's parts of it I really got away enjoying myself, and I was sitting there going, you know what, I'm really enjoying this bit. I don't mind this. I'm having fun. I'm not getting bored. I'm not going, oh look, there's another shot that's been used from the other films. I'm not going, oh well, why did we have that? You know, that's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. I was actually quite engaged with it, and I enjoyed it, and I fully intend to go and see it again, because I've only seen it in 2D. You've seen it in 3D.
Yes.
But you're going to go and see it in IMAX as well, aren't you?
Yeah. Which
will be IMAX 3D, because IMAX, I think, doesn't show 2D.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple of points. It's just regarding the human element of the film. I like the car chase scene. Mm-hmm. I thought that was actually handled quite well. I'm guessing he got a proper stunt driver in it, and it's actually really well handled. Mm-hmm. It makes you wish that Michael Bay would go back and do sort of like a Bad Boys-esque kind of film again. Because I think he sort of like suits that kind of movie well. There was too many postcard moments. It's sort of like there is a scene where he's had an argument with his daughter, and he comes out onto his porch, and you've got a brilliant background and a shooting star, and he's looking up to the sky. This is Mark Wahlberg character, and he's looking up to the sky and go, "Yeah, I did a good job with the daughter." Regarding the mum. It's just a very postcard cheesy moment, and there's too many of them. But what I did like was the fact that there isn't any proper references to any of the characters from the original trilogy, from the first, second, and third films. So there isn't a mention of Sam Witwicky, even though when Bumblebee shows up, there isn't a mention of him at all, which I actually quite like, because then it sort of like it takes it away from that, rather than sort of like slightly bleeding in it. The only mention you do get is the fact that the incident in the film itself happens after the Chicago incident in the third film. So I like the fact that he did decide to do that, sort of like separated away from it. Yeah,
it kind of ties into something as well I was going to say about the whole thing of being... The bad guys in this one aren't just these other Transformers. The bad guys in this one are also people and humans in it too. And I quite like that shift, that it's being to showing bad human characters in it, and there being that element as well, because it makes it more interesting that it's sort of man against man, not just man against machine sort of thing. And the whole thing of that there being because it's the first one in a new trilogy and it is setting up these new characters, that's why I think there's that effect of focusing more on these human characters, especially at the start of the film, because we're setting them up obviously to be there for potentially 3 new films or 2 other ones after this. And there is as well in one sequence, a sequence where just after Optimus has been reawakened and this car chase happens that we're talking about, and the focus is on the car that's being chased by other humans by the CIA guys in cars, and this fight that's happening in the background with Optimus and another robot is going on in the background, and we don't really focus on that. We don't really see that. We focus on the human characters, which I thought was a nice change. It didn't just focus on the robots and the people around them. It focused on the people, and the robots were the background, and I quite like that.
And the thing though is, I found the human bad guys just to be majorly stereotypical. I didn't feel like you could tell that the only reason why they had menace is because they had power behind them. It was nice to sort of like to get the Stanley Tucci character in a way, because he realised during the film itself what he was doing was wrong. He thinks that he was doing right, when in fact he was ultimately doing wrong with this transformium material or metal that they've managed to find, and creating their own versions of Transformers, thinking that they're going to do good, when in fact you know that the ulterior motive of Kelsey Grammer's character is sort of like to do evil rather than to do good with what they've got. So it's just very stereotypical, but you can see little tiny seeds that Michael Bay might have watched Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon and thought, yeah, I think we made a bit of a mistake with those 2 films.
Well, especially because of the fact there is nobody in this film that is annoying or horrible as John Turturro or Ken Jeong in the last one, or John Malkovich's appearance in it. There is nobody in the whole film that is playing for laughs and cheese as they were in those, that you kind of go, oh, come on, get them off the screen, get on with it. There's no point in the film that I had a character that I hated that much.
Yeah, and there's no annoying Transformers neither. So you don't have Transformers with huge, massive metal testicles, or racist Transformers. Or there is a few little wisecrackings, but it's from a Transformer that was sort of like captured, and that was his attitude. But it's not like shoved down your throat.
No, but there is. I will say this: there were a couple of moments where I was like, "Oh, there's racist Michael Bay creeping onto the screen again." A couple of moments where I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's him starting to fall back into habits." But he kind of stopped after that. Yeah,
and you were thinking also that, don't you dare put the camera there. Leave Nicola Peltz alone. She's not a Rosie Huntington-Whiteley or Megan Fox. Just leave her alone. Yes, the shorts are getting shorter and shorter, but the father has actually noted the fact that the shorts are getting shorter and shorter, and she does actually put something on where it's actually much more covering up the legs. So, yeah, don't leer at her. Just don't do it. Yeah, please leer at her. Damn you, Michael Bay! And he took a few little leaves out of J.J. Abrams' book, and for the first 20 minutes there was a ton of lens flare.
Shall I go on to the last cinema release?
Yeah, there is another release this week. We're not out here to just talk about Transformers.
Yeah. Getting a very limited release this week is The Anomaly, which is directed by Noel Clarke and also starring him. It's written by Simon Lewis. And it stars Noel Clarke as Ryan, who is... he's a guy that finds himself in an odd situation where he wakes up at the start of the movie hearing some screaming. There's it's actually quite a sort of shocking sound opening at the beginning of it, where the titles start running and you just hear these people screaming and shouting and stuff. And then he wakes up in a van where there's this kid tied up, and he's asking him, what's going on, what happened. He doesn't remember where he is, how he got there. Doesn't even seem to realise what the date and the time is and such, what's going on. And then as he helps this kid escape from the van, they're chased by a couple of people, one of which is played by Ian Somerhalder. Things sort of go on for a while, and then all of a sudden he blacks out again and wakes up again another time later on, where he kind of runs into Ian Somerhalder's character again, who treats him firstly as a friend, but then questions who he is and whether or not he is really who he says he is, and sort of explains to him the whole thing of that there's something going on whereby he will only be conscious for the next 9 minutes and 47 seconds before a reboot will happen, after which he will no longer be in control and potentially may never re-emerge again. Here's a clip.
Control's inevitable, in some form, whether it's us or not. But this being airborne, people are going to purge their systems. They're going to mimic the tech. They're going to destroy the satellites. I know that. But me, having the right person, doing the right thing to ensure that this planet has a future, now that makes sense, Ryan. That's how I'll remake the world. There's absolutely no reason to stop me.
So it kind of goes on from there to another scene where obviously nothing happens, where he has another sort of just under 10 minutes of consciousness, and then so on and so on and so forth like that. And during each of these times it skips ahead a certain amount of time, and he sort of starts tying things together and figuring out what's going on and how to try and stop it. There is this whole thing of it that it's, at times it kind of reminded me, taking ideas of kind of like the Bourne Identity, of the sort of the concept of source code, of having a limited amount of time and then having to do things, and it kind of puts it all together, ties it all together fairly well. It's a bit above average, I would say, well written film. It's fairly well directed. It's got some nice shots in there that work very well, and some good performances in it as well. The one thing I will say that I find really annoying is that it kind of does a little bit of story exposition, then all of a sudden feels it has to edge in a fight and have it turn it into an action film for a sequence, and then basically it tries to do Michael Bay action and does hundreds of slow motion during the action sequence. Now these I found to be very, very annoying, and I would have loved to have seen these shots done with just the normal footage, no slow motion at all, because the thing is, the fight sequences in it are fairly well organised, fairly well choreographed. They don't have quick cuts in them or anything. They're single shots, so they've planned them out, they've worked them out, then they filmed them, and then during filming them they've ranked up the camera speed so that it records in slow motion. And then when they played it back, obviously cutting back and forth between slow motion and full speed at critical points. You know, someone gets hit and it slows down for a moment, and it starts off, first fight early on, you're kind of going, okay, I didn't mind it so much. Then the next one it does it again, you're kind of, okay, getting a bit bored of it now. Then you get to the next one, and you just and by the end of it, you're just going, come on, stop it with the slow motion. You're not Michael Bay. You don't want to be Michael Bay. Aside from that, I quite enjoyed it. I quite liked it. It's fairly well written, fairly well directed. Enjoyed it. It's not overly long. Doesn't stick around for too long, given the concept. Doesn't stretch it out for too much. A little bit. Could have been tightened up a bit, but it's only 97 minutes long. So it's not a very long film, and for a British film that's probably made on a very small budget, it does a lot for its buck, basically. I don't know what it cost. I know it didn't cost a massive amount, like compared to other films that are out there, but it does a nice job of what it's got. Just need a little bit more tightening up and less of the Michael Bay slow motion, because that really gets to grate after a while. But if you like your small Brit flicks and you like something that's got a good sort of science fiction basis to it, then check this out, because you might be surprised and might enjoy it.
It should be it's probably one of those releases where it'll be out on DVD sooner than people expect.
Possibly. I mean, it's the thing of when I saw it, I can only find one cinema in the whole of Scotland that appeared to be showing it. There might be other ones, but I even tried all the small art house screens that there were, the smaller ones, and none of them had it listed at all. So it's had a very limited release in the UK. I know that it's been in London, obviously, in a few places, but I don't know how many screens, but I can't imagine it's high in the double digits, if it is even double digits.
Yeah, this is where if I won the lottery, I'd actually open up my own little cinema. Yeah, I've got honestly, I've thought about this. I would call it like the Countdown Cinema, and just give a better chance to smaller films rather than big movies, because they do need it, especially a British-made film. You would expect it to get a better screening average than what it got. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised when I do get the box office numbers. I do discover how many screens it's shown on. If it was shown on less screens than Haunted House 2. And that was only shown on 14, and by the sounds of it, this might be shown on even less than that. So
yeah, I'm not sure. As I say, I tried to find all of it, and I can only find the one in Glasgow that showed it. And the thing is, they only had it on once a day. At the weekend, Friday and Saturday, they had it on twice, but they had the second one was like 11 o'clock showing at night, which most people can't get to because they can't get out of Glasgow after that time. So it's obviously a public transport. I mean, the driving they can, but. They made it not particularly easy to get to see it, and when I saw it as well, I saw it on Saturday night, and there was maybe 6 people in the screen.
Yeah, it's just annoying. because it'll not get the publicity, etc. Anyway, so
And as well, I've seen it advertised. I came home that night and I saw it advertised on television. It actually had an advert. So it's
I've not
got
seen the advert
publicity.
for it. I've not even seen the trailer for it. So yeah, well, that's it for the cinema section of the show. We will be right back with the home releases of this week.
From page to screen. So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look. But sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting, about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. Be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
And we are back with this week's home releases on DVD and Blu-ray. Coming up in this part of the show, we're going to go through the DVD and Blu-ray top 10 and look at these new releases, a ton of them.
Yeah, Wes Anderson's quirky comedy. I think you probably would hate it if people keep on calling these movies quirky, but it's very quirky. With the Grand Budapest Hotel, Ty West's latest Scarefest with The Sacrament, you've got The Book Thief, you've got a Greek drama with Miss Violence, Man of Tai Chi, Goal of the Dead, Dead Awake, and, well, we were going to do Dead Awake, but I should have crossed that off my list, and Absentia.
Yeah, but before that, let's go straight into the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, again, we said absolutely everything we can about this film. Very funny. Very good chemistry between Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum.
At number 9 is The Monuments Men. Sorry, didn't have that on my screen for some reason.
Yeah, it's just with a movie that's as niche as it is, it's not that interesting, to be honest.
Number 8 is Lone Survivor.
Which I keep on saying, it's bookended by some very mediocre stuff. The middle part of the film is where the good stuff actually happens, and it's where Peter Berg can show that he is a decent director because he can direct pretty intense, nasty scenes.
Number 7 is The Wolf of Wall Street.
A movie that could have easily been cut by a good hour. It's just Martin Scorsese having a 3-hour party. So a lot of these scenes just rinse and repeat itself. It is funny at times, and it's some brilliant acting from both Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio. But I just felt like it could have had a good hour cut out from it.
RoboCop is at number 6.
Doesn't get started until about an hour and 10 minutes into the film. Joel Kinnaman is okay as RoboCop. It's just, it's nowhere near like the original, like the Paul Verhoeven original.
Number 5 is Tinkerbell and the Pirate Fairy.
We got no correspondence about people who have seen it, so how did this manage to get to number 1 last week?
No, so we don't have any comment on it. No review of it. You're going to watch it for this week? No. We can review that next week when we don't have anything to review in the cinema section.
Not going to happen.
At number 4 is a new entry, believe it or not, for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, I think it's just getting a reissue on Blu-ray. It's the fact that this will be the first time it's released on Blu-ray is my guess. It's the only reason why it's in there. Because if you look at how many weeks it's been on the chart, in some form or guise or whatever, it's hundreds of weeks. So, yeah, it's a non-new entry. And it's typical Disney. It's the kind of thing that's tailored towards more girls because of the character of Snow White. But there is some dark stuff in Snow White if you watch it now.
At number 3 is Ride Along.
Yeah, it's a comedy without the comedy. It's not funny at all. It really is not funny at all. It's really boring. Both Ice Cube and Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart's really bad. Ice Cube, I can tolerate in roles like 21 and 22 Jump Street. In movies like this, it's just, you think to yourself, after watching 22 Jump Street, how can he be so unfunny when he is quite funny in 22 Jump Street? Yeah, it's just bad.
Still managing to stay at number 2, not going any higher or any lower. Quite consistently staying with its name, Frozen.
Yeah, it's like the 5th highest grossing movie of all time. the highest grossing animated film of all time. It's going to take something huge to topple that.
Well, I don't know I'd say huge, but the new number one is non-stop.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as Taken 2. It's Liam Neeson sort of like just in first gear, because he knows exactly how to do these kind of roles with his eyes closed. And it's just one of those movies where you don't mind if it's on TV on a Saturday afternoon. It'll pass away an hour and a half. It's just, in my opinion, it's not one of those movies where I would actually go out and pick up a copy of it or hunt out for it. I would not walk into a shop and go, ooh, I wouldn't mind buying the latest Liam Neeson film. It's not a forgettable film. It's just a very average film.
It kind of links me in with something I saw on Facebook the other day. If you haven't seen it, look for it. It's a spoof that someone's done with Morgan Freeman's voice being applied to a TomTom device, and it ends with a little Liam Neeson one at the end of it, which is genuinely quite hysterical and made me laugh.
Okay, whatever makes you giggle.
I'll have to try see if I can find it and maybe put it on the website. There's one other thing I can do on the website there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go on to the first movie this week for the DVD and Blu-rays, which is The Grand Budapest Hotel. It's Wes Anderson's latest movie, which stars Ralph Fiennes as M. Gustav, the man who is the maitre d' of a hotel, the particular hotel in the title, The Grand Budapest. And the movie starts off in true Wes Anderson odd style, with a sequence that starts with Tom Wilkinson talking to the camera, explaining about this story of him, how he being a writer and how it affects things, which then cuts back to him as a younger man played by Jude Law, who is sort of going to the Grand Budapest, where he's speaking with someone there, and it goes and sort of looking at this character who's played by F. Murray Abraham, who is Mr. Mustafa, who it turns out was sort of the owner of the hotel. Cut back even further then to the early story of the young Mr. Mustafa as a character called Zero, and he's just sort of starting his job, a new career, starting a job as a bellboy at the Grand Budapest. Here's a clip.
Who are you?
I'm Zero, sir. The new lobby boy.
Zero, you say?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've never heard of you, never laid eyes on you. Who hired you?
Mr. Mosher, sir.
Mr. Mosher? Yes, Monsieur Gustav.
Am I to understand you've surreptitiously hired this young man in the position of a lobby boy?
He's been engaged for a trial period, pending your approval, of course.
Perhaps, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mosher.
You're most welcome, Monsieur Gustav.
You're now going to be officially interviewed.
Should I go and light the candle first, sir?
What?
No.
Experience.
Hotel Kinski, kitchen boy, 6 months. Hotel Berlitz, mop and broom boy, 3 months. Before that, I was a skillet scrubber.
Experience, zero.
Thank you again, Monsieur Gustav.
Straighten that cap, Anatole. The pleasure's mine, Herr Schneider.
The stress busters.
These are not acceptable.
I fully agree.
Education.
I studied reading and spelling. I started my primary school. I almost finished.
Education, zero.
Now it's exploded.
Good morning, Cicero. Call the goddamn plumber.
This afternoon, Monsieur Gustav.
Will that fail, Frau Liebling?
What on heaven's is?
Not now. Family?
Zero.
So, here's the thing with the Grand Budapest. I'm not going to go any further into the plot, because there is a plot, and it's quite a kooky one, but it is absolutely brilliant. And the thing is, I absolutely loved this film. I do like Wes Anderson's films. I still haven't seen a couple of them. But my favourite one, I think, is Fantastic Mr. Fox. I like this almost as much. I maybe even like it more now that I've seen it again, because I've really enjoyed it, and I find it hysterically funny. It's brilliantly acted. Ralph Fiennes is absolutely fantastic. Tony Revolori, who plays the younger Zero, is absolutely brilliant. I've not seen him in anything before, and he's definitely going to be someone to watch out for, because he can hold the screen quite well, especially on a quirky sort of thing with Wes Anderson's films. And it's got obviously all these well-known faces in there make cameos. You've got William Dafoe plays a small part, Jeff Goldblum, Harvey Keitel, Bill Murray pops up at one point, Edward Norton, Saoirse Ronan has a bit of a sort of a larger part, but not given much to do, unfortunately. Tilda Swinton has a very small part, which is almost unrecognisable, and it's just those kind of get overshadowed by the story, though, which is a good thing, because you always want more of a story and more of a film than just actors popping up in cameos. And I just think this is very, very well handled. It's definitely got that kooky framed shots that you have with Wes Anderson films. There is a weirdness to it as well, where each of the time frames it changes aspect ratio of the film, but it's not distracting in any way, because it stays mostly with the full screen version you have for the M. Gustav sequences, which are the majority of the film. And it's just a joy, and loved it from start to finish. I saw it a couple of times at cinema, and I've seen it again since, and now I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the Grand Budapest Hotel. I haven't told you what I actually thought of it, considering that I'm not much of a Wes Anderson fan, to be honest. So, will it change my mind about Wes Anderson films? No. That's probably slightly soul-crushing for you, that. It'll not change my mind about them. But I did actually laugh a few times, especially Ralph Fiennes' character, because his character he's intelligently dumb.
He's so deadpan in his performance.
Yeah, very stoic in his performance, but he's very intelligent. But some of the stuff that he is seeing is really dumb. It is the kind of thing like when he does get put in a prison, and you would never see any of the things that he sees to the prison people. The way he acts, you would expect them to just get like a knife or something, or a shank and shank him. So it's just the way Wes Anderson directs some of the characters in the film. They all feel like they're taken from the strangest animated film that you've seen after you've had a nasty trip or something. So it's just the way he does his movies. It is funny. It's very well acted. I have to give plaudits to Ralph Fiennes. I think his acting is brilliant in the movie. His character is very quirky and strange, and it's nice it's a refreshing taste to get that kind of thing rather than seeing the same dull characters over and over again. So I didn't love it as much as you did, but I did like it.
I just found it, honestly, there was not any single point that I didn't like, or I was bored, or found any problems with it. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's a little bit longish, but not long. It's only an hour and 40 minutes, so it's not a very long film, but it stretches out what it's got, and without being boring, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. Right, I'll do The Sacrament, and I've given you a clip for The Sacrament, but just don't play it. You don't need to play it. It's on for way too long anyway, and we played it a couple of weeks ago, so I don't think people actually need to hear it a second time. But The Sacrament is the latest film from director Ty West, who likes to do these slow-boiling, bubbling movies, and then in the last 20-25 minutes pay it off with the amount of tension that he manages to build. So if you look at House of the Devil, if you look at The Innkeepers, which I love both of those films, and so this movie follows a very similar premise in that case, and it just centres around a film crew who, one of the film crew's sisters is gone off with this cult in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and so they get an invitation to go over to this cult to try and speak to her to get her to come back to civilization. When they get to this cult, they let her around the area to see how they live, how the fact that there's this character called Father, who's played by Gene Jones, who seems to be ruling the cult, but the leader of the cult. However, there is something suspicious about him. He's got ulterior motives of why they're actually there, because he's constantly forcing it down the throats that America's civilization, or any kind of civilization, is wrong. What they do in war and poverty and famine and all that stuff, it is wrong. And so they need to segregate themselves off for everything, all technology, etc., so they can live their own life. And like with Ty West's previous films, the first 2/3 of the movie builds up the tension. There are slow burners, and they need to be slow burners because you need to attach yourself with the characters, and you need to start feeling on edge about specifically the father character in this movie, and it works. And normally, like I said, with these movies, the payoff is in the last 20-25 minutes, where it's just the ultimate tension, and you're not allowed to actually take a breath. But the problem with The Sacrament is that didn't feel the case with the last 25 minutes of it. When it does actually happen, it's relentless. But you're allowed to just, yeah, fine. Yeah, you're going down that route. Okay, then fine, you're going down that route as well. And this is a very inventive director, and just it didn't feel like he was trying to do something different with with this genre, because we've seen the cult side of horror done numerous amount of times, especially with a brilliant film called Martha Marcy Me and Marlene, which showed off Elizabeth Olsen as an actress. And it's just unfortunate that she's been in a lot of films which are terrible, to be honest, but her role in Martha Marcy Me and Marlene and with the cult actually worked. In this part, it just felt like it was a carbon copy of stuff that we've seen before.
So, is it worth seeing? Is it worth renting? Is it? What would you recommend? I mean, can you compare it to anything?
It's worth seeing for Ty West aficionados, people who are fans of him, and I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a brilliant director, and I think he's one of those very few directors who is saving horror. Him and Adam Wingard, who did You're Next. He's got a new film which is going to be shown at this year's Fright Fest. And there are a few directors. I think James Wan, what he's done for horror is just brilliant, and Jason Blum as well. Even though he has been involved in movies like the Paranormal Activity films, The Purge, and things like that, he has sort of like shown that you can create a movie that can be really successful on a small budget. So there are directors and producers out there which is saving horror, and he is one of them. It's just this is one of these films where it's very average from a director who I expect much better.
Just thinking as well, didn't Ty West do that western with Bruce Willis that was based on a samurai film? I can't remember the name of it now.
I would probably have to IMDb it, but I'll discover that while you go into your next film. I might have to interject while you do The Book Thief, and there'll be an interesting interjection.
Yeah. Okay, The Book Thief, which is directed by Brian Percival, is based on the novel by Markus Zusak. It's about a young girl who, during World War II, she's in a German village or town, and early on, this little girl, Liesel, played by Sophie Nélisse, is suffers the tragedy of her family being killed in a bombing. She ends up sort of being sent to live with a family which is housed by Geoffrey Rush and Emily Watson, who at first are sort of not sure how to take her in. They take her in, try and treat her well. When she's there, though, it's found out by her papa, played by Geoffrey Rush, that she does not know how to read. So he sort of starts teaching her how to read while she's also doing all the other things. She's going to school. She makes friends with one of the kids from the village she's now in, and things are sort of going on quite well. What she doesn't realise, though, is that the fact is that Geoffrey Rush's character is sort of connected to the sort of the underground with sort of helping to try and smuggle Jews out of the country into sort of safe areas. And when she returns home one day, finds that there is a Jewish boy living in the cellar who she sort of becomes friends with and starts actually seeing as he's trapped in the cellar, can't go out obviously for risk of being discovered, that she sort of becomes his only friend there and sort of strikes up a good friendship with him. Here's a clip.
Tell me, where do you get these words?
It's a secret.
And who would I tell? Can you do me a favor? Can you describe the day for me? What's it like outside?
It's cloudy.
No. Make the words yours. If your eyes could speak, what would they say?
It's a pale day.
Pale. Good, go on.
Everything's stuck behind a cloud. And the sun doesn't look like the sun.
What does it look like?
Like a silver oyster.
Thank you. I saw that.
So here's the thing with The Book Thief. I didn't think it was especially brilliant. I didn't think it was especially bad. And I don't think it's a nothing film. It has good performances in it and some good scenes in there which do make it worth seeing. Especially the scenes with Geoffrey Rush, who really, he's a joy to watch in pretty much anything he does. But the thing is that it has a problem with is that, and this isn't a problem I think with the film mainly, I think it's actually a problem with the story in the book, because it's something I'm told is from the book, in that the film has a narrator telling the story. And it's Death is actually the character of Death who is narrating the story. He pops up at the start and pops up at the end, and for me that was kind of a what? Hang on a minute, what? At the start I didn't know what was going on really, because it didn't quite add up to me, and at the end I knew it had been going on, but I kind of felt it was like, okay, you got to the end, now let me tell you what's going to happen, and this happens, and it's kind of, you go, I would have rather just, been shown that being done cleverly, through editing and visual storytelling, rather than just have someone go, oh, and if you don't know, I'm not deaf, but I am, but if you kind of listen to what I'm saying, this is what happened. And that kind of really, really threw me, and I found really a slap in the face. Because I've been sitting there watching the whole film for the 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is not a short film, and was robbed of any kind of rewarding of an ending. It just kind of went, oh, here's how it ended, this is what it is. So I enjoyed it. I think the acting's very good. Sophie Elise, I've not seen anything before, but she's very, very good in the film. She does hold the film for a majority of the screen, considering she's only, I think, 11 or 12. And it's a good drama, but the thing as well, one of the problems I do have with it is that it kind of shies away from the horrors of war. And this is obviously a family that are living in Germany in wartime, and there's little bits of it. You see sometimes the soldiers pop into town because they're doing something, but you don't get the horror of war, which is what also feels as if it's kind of trying to be all good. Here's a story we're telling, but it's nothing to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with the war. Don't mention the war, that kind of thing. And it kind of felt like, oh well, what's the point of having it set during that time then? It doesn't feel as if it needs to be. It can be set at any time, which is an interesting idea, but doesn't work for me. I kind of wanted to see the people during the wartime, how this affected them, and it didn't.
Right, I'll go on to Miss Violence, which is a completely... the tone of the film is completely different to anything that we've reviewed tonight. It's a very... It's really hard to actually review these kind of films, to be honest, when they tackle really tough subjects. So the closest film this reminded me of was a movie called Michael, which I reviewed about a year and a half ago, which is a really horrible subject to actually tackle. And so this film is a Greek film. It's from Greece, and it's directed by Alexandros Avranas. And a lot of the actors in it nobody will have heard of unless you're from Greece themselves. But the film itself is centres around, at the start of the film, it's 11-year-old Angelique's birthday. And you think that it's a happy family. The grandfather, grandmother's there, the mother of her and her sisters and brothers are there, and they have a bit of a dance, some cake, etc. However, Angelique, she decides to creep out of the party, go to the balcony of the grandmother and grandfather's house, and throw herself off it. And when the social workers get involved, you discover that she actually had a smile on her face when she actually threw herself and committed suicide. And so this is on her 11th birthday. And so the rest of the film explores the social workers coming in to find out what family life is like. And you discover during the movie that the grandfather and grandmother, because the mother actually lives with her parents, that they seem to want to wipe all knowledge of the kids out of everybody in the family. So they don't want the other kids in the family to know what actually went on. They want to wipe all the memory of Angelique out of every existence, to be honest. And you discover why that is the case. There are seeds that planted where you feel slightly uncomfortable at a few little scenes. You discover that the grandfather could be doing something nefarious, something really horrible, because there's numerous amount of times where he takes the kids into a room and then the door closes. And he does the same with the mother, with his daughter. He takes her into a room and the door closes, and the daughter smacks one of the kids across the face. And you also discover that the second older sister, she likes to cut herself with a knife in front of them or with a razor blade, just to maybe feel some kind of emotion. And it's all down to what the grandfather turns out to be. I'm not going to give it away because it's something horrible. That's all I'll just say. It's something really horrible. And there is a scene in the film itself, it's rated 18, that when you discover the end little bit of the scene, it does make you sick a little bit, to be honest, because the way it plays out, you expect it to be one thing, but when you actually discover what it actually fully turns out to be, it is quite nasty. And that's the only part of the movie where it garners that emotion, because the film itself is a tough thing. It is a tough subject that it's trying to explore, but you can't say if you like these kind of films or hate these kind of films because of the subject. That's the reason why I said it's really difficult to review them. And the film itself it spends too many times focusing on very still shots. The way that the director actually does it, he tries to build tension or to build an uneasiness in you, but you just don't feel it. And again, that sounds really nasty when you discover what it is actually going on, but you just don't feel the emotion. Whereas with Michael, because Michael has got explores very similar themes, you felt really uneasy, unnerving during the film itself. With this one, you just don't feel that. The acting is very stoic. There's no emotions at all on any of the characters' faces, and you think to yourself, well, maybe that's there because of the fact that it is trying to get that thing, that they are more automaton, they're more robotic with what they've done, but it just didn't garner anything from me. It's a movie that I can't recommend to anybody to watch, not even because of the subject. And I think you should go off and watch Michael more so, even though this subject is a really difficult film to do. The director tackles that film better than the director tackles this film.
I'm just kind of curious. You say there's bits that are kind of sickening.
Yeah.
Just trying to think how to question this, how to ask this. Is it stuff that is really sort of sensitive to people?
Yes.
People, it is.
It's a very. I can actually tell you what the subject is.
Okay. Is that without spoiling?
No, it's actually based on a true story as well. It's based on a true case which actually did happen with the family, and I've been trying to sort of like jump around it without actually seeing it. But when I actually reviewed Michael, I actually said what it is about. But it is about. I don't mind actually seeing it, but it is about rape, and it is about incest. And it is about and mainly those are the thing. It is the grandfather is actually involved in something quite nasty, and the whole reason why Angelique did commit suicide was down to the nasty thing that the grandfather made her do. So it is down to incest and rape, and Michael is handled much better with the subject because the director knew how to handle the subject and tell it in a story where you follow the character and you feel really nasty and feel really uneasy, because that's the emotion that these movies need to show. It can't be very mundane, because if you're tackling a movie like this, you need to. It might be a nasty thing. You need to go all out with it without going too far across the line where you do see a nasty scene. And the director does that with this film. There is a nasty scene in the film where it goes way too far, and you didn't need to see it. The last time I was quite sickening with that kind of scene was after I saw a Serbian film, because there's a scene in a Serbian film which I hate the director, and I hate that film for the scene that it made me watch.
That's a strong reaction to get from you, of all people, as well.
It honestly, a Serbian film is a sickening, nasty, pathetic, atrocious film. And this film has a scene in the film where it actually suits that ethos.
Okay. Right, on to something a little bit more kind of lighter then. Man of Tai Chi, which is a movie it's taken a long time to come out here, because it's a largely Chinese funded film. It's directed by Keanu Reeves, of all people. It's his first film I think he's directed, and it is a film that's sort of half English, half Chinese in the dialogue, and he also appears in the movie. The main character of the film is a character named Chen, played by Tiger Hu Chen, who is basically, let's say he's a guy who lives an unfulfilled life, lives in a sort of a job where he works in a job where he's underappreciated as like a delivery person. He is training in the martial art of Tai Chi, which is not so much a martial art as it is an exercise thing. It's not really considered, from the film tells you basically, it's not considered to be a proper martial arts. It's more of an exercise martial arts and not really used for fighting. He kind of disagrees with this. He enters into sort of a fighting contest to show, not to win anything, because he doesn't like to do it for competition, but to show people they're wrong, that Tai Chi can actually be used. It's more of a defensive, and you direct the person's attacks. The stronger they attack you, the stronger your attack against them. And that he decides to show that it can be a good fighting martial art as well as an exercise one. When he's doing that, he's being filmed unawares that a man named Donica Mark, played by Keanu Reeves, is sort of watching him and brings him into his company, which is a security company, to interview him. Chen goes sort of deciding, okay, maybe this is a chance at a better job, not realising that what he's actually going there to be asked for. Here's a clip.
How would you like to test how good you are, Tiger? Or could become? No referees, no rules. Pure fighting, man to man.
What do you mean? What's the job?
You fight and get paid.
I fight and get paid? What about a security position?
This pays better.
I can't fight Tai Chi for money. It's dishonorable.
You must have responsibilities. A master, parents. Fight for them.
What if I lose?
You're fired. Call me.
So what happens is then that rather coincidentally, or not as it were, certain things happen that he finds himself in a situation where he needs money to help fix a temple that's in risk of being knocked down, and to help his family and such, and so he ends up having to take the offer and take the job and enter into these fights. The thing with it is that there is a story of it's building up to something else, which I don't want to go into because it's kind of spoilerish. But the thing is that it's a fairly entertaining film, not only for the martial arts sequence, but also for the sort of the drama of what the character's going through as he sort of starts unraveling a bit, because he's using this defensive and calming martial art to be an aggressive thing and changing the way it affects him as well. It's really quite well edited, because of the fact that it's a very harshly sharp editing, but it suits the film because of the way it's going about telling the story of things going on in different angles, different times that are all sort of affected. And the thing that's quite interesting about it is the fact that Keanu Reeves in it plays quite one of the most animated characters he's ever played. A lot of people don't like him largely because they think he's not a great actor, and here he does do a bit more, as well as acting in it as well as directing it. I would say that the martial arts sequences, though, are slightly disappointing given what other films there have been recently, including things like The Raid. And the other thing, and the reason I make that connection is because Iko Uwais, who plays the main character in both of the Raid films, has a small appearance in this as a fighter against Chen in the movie, and the two of them fight quite well, and it's a quite a well done fight, but it's a little disappointing because of the fact that it's edited in such a way that it's put together. There's no real it's not really showing a massive amount of skill in either the camera work or in the martial arts work. So it's a little disappointing on that effect, but it's an enjoyable film, and one that I was quite surprised at, and not really surprised, but I was not expecting the ending to be how it was. The one other thing I would say that kind of feels a bit tacked on is that there's this whole thing of that because it's an underground fighting thing. Obviously, of course, there are police involved trying to track it and find it and stop it, and that feels as if it's been tacked on just purely because we need another story telling this is happening as well, so that we can wrap things up. And that didn't feel well handled in the film. But everything else in it, I thought was quite well done, and I enjoyed it quite okay.
Okay then, let's get on to the last two films. I'll sandwich both of these two together. Actually, it'll be a really weird mix if they both came together. But the first off is Goal of the Dead, which is a French film. It's directed by Thierry Poirot and Benjamin Rocher, and it's actually split into two halves, like a football match. And so the first half of it actually does come up as well, first half and second half. And so the first half of it centres around a football team, which is Olympique de Paris, and they're going to play off their final game of the season. The bus is heading to the stadium, etc., and you discover this guy in this huge, massive house who's been injecting his son, who is a football player who's got a rivalry against one of the players from Olympique de Paris, and he is going to play in the last game of the season. However, this thing that he's been injecting him with, it's slowly turned him into a zombie, and he becomes this ultimate zombie killing machine kind of thing. And so the first half of the film is just setting that up, the fact that he is starting to infect people, etc. They get to the football match. One of the players on the Olympique de Paris one gets booed all the time. No matter what he does, the tackles that he makes, etc., he gets booed all the time. And all of a sudden, the zombie outbreak happens at the stadium. And so the second part of the film, in the second half, is the outcome. What's actually happened? A lot of spectators and a lot of the players have been turned into zombies. And the people who manage to survive, they have to try and go up against the zombies to fight for their survival. And so the film itself is a French movie. It's subtitled. It has humour in it, for the second half, that is. The first half is boring. It's really boring. It doesn't get really entertaining until you get to the second half. And the thing with the film is it's on for just over 2 hours. And so you've got 1 hour of a boring film, 1 hour of an entertaining film, which made me think that the director could have easily cut 35 minutes out of the first part and stitched it together with the second part of the movie. It would have still made slightly more sense, and it would have been a much more entertaining, more enjoyable zombie sort of like comedy kind of film with the dark humour here and there and a few little extra funny bits, but a gory fest zombie movie, and I would have enjoyed it much more. It's just you have to fast forward through the first hour of the film to get something enjoyable.
Can I just ask, is it like you know how From Dusk to Dawn starts off as one type of film and then changes into another when it becomes a vampire film? Is it handled like that or not?
It's handled like that in the first 3/4 of the first part of the film. It's when the zombie outbreak actually happens. That's when it sort of like does the From Dusk Till Dawn thing, and it's much more entertaining. Whereas I think From Dusk Till Dawn, though, it handles both parts really well. With this one, it only handles the second half of the film really well.
Okay, and Absentia.
Yeah, which is directed by Mike Flanagan, who was just an Oculus. This film was actually, he did it in 2011, and we're only getting it now. It's a very, very small film. If you actually look at the description on IMDb, he wrote it. He wrote the description for the film on IMDb. So it shows you how unknown this film is. And it just centres around a woman whose husband's gone missing. He's been missing for 5 years. And the police want to put him in absentia, which means that enough time has gone where she can actually go on with her life. She's allowed to remarry again if she wants to, etc. And so she gets the help from her sister. Her sister comes to stay because she is now fully pregnant. You wonder why she's pregnant, how she's managed to become pregnant. That's never answered during the film because she's sort of like, in a way, fallen for the police officer, which is helping her discover where her husband's gone, but hasn't, because there is a scene where they explain to each other that they've just had their first kiss, and so you never find out who the baby's father is. And there is the tunnel, which is not far from the house, and this tunnel holds a really dark secret. Maybe her husband has actually gone into this tunnel and something has taken him down into this tunnel, into the depths of this tunnel. Or it could be something else that's followed him home or taken him from somewhere. And the movie is just very muddled. It never explains itself at all. And when you think that you're going to see something important, it cuts away from it. For example, the scene where both sisters are in the house and you're expecting something creepy to happen because you've got the creaky kind of noises. You heard the bang from downstairs while they're upstairs and they go to investigate, and it's dark and you're expecting a jump scare or something to grab hold of one of them. And when they're just about to grab hold of something, the screen goes black and you see nothing. You honestly, you see absolutely nothing. It's such a messy film as well. It's not handled very well. The acting is terrible. But when you've got a film where the budget is tiny, you wouldn't expect anything better from the acting. But it's not handled well at all. There are no scares in it. It's just a very messy, muddled, boring film. And I actually prefer Oculus miles more than this. However, if I do From Page to Scream, which is Stuart from Page 2 Screen's horror podcast, and Lauren, who's on that with us, she actually liked this more than Oculus, and I can't agree with that. This one's miles more worse. Okay.
So let's go on then to finally end of the show. Coming up, the movies of the week, TV movies of the week. Sorry, we've only got one, haven't we? Because we've got the same one actually. Believe it.
Yeah.
Which is The Raid. It's on 10:55 p.m. Friday the 11th of July on Film 4. I'm not sure if this is the first time this has been shown on there or not.
I'm not. I was thinking that as well because I don't remember seeing Film 4 showing it.
No, and it's not been shown on Channel 4 either, because normally when Film 4 gets a film, it was shown on Channel 4 first, and then they'll repeat it showings on Film 4. But I've not, obviously, because it was an 18 film for being extremely violent, but it is really a groundbreaking martial arts film that you need to see to believe. And even if you're only a partial fan of these kind of films, you need to see this, because it's really just one of those films that will completely blow you away, and just you will watch it and then you'll be, thank you sir, may I have another? And in I'm not sure when it is, but less than a month I think it is, that
around about that
is finally released down on Blu-ray and DVD. So you watch this. There'll probably be an advert during it for the Raid 2, because after you see this, you'll want to see the Raid 2.
I'm trying to find out the exact release date for the Raid 2, and that's the 11th of August.
11th of August, yes. So it's a month away then from when this is being shown. So yeah, definitely check it out and have a look, because honestly, you will not be disappointed.
Completely agree.
That's it for this week's show. Thank you for joining us if you've been listening live. If not, thank you for listening to us after the fact on the podcast. You can always find updates and details for the show on our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can find us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. You can also reach Stuart directly at Cryptic Tadpole and myself directly at AHDVD. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. And you can also email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. We are working, hopefully, trying to get back on iTunes. So watch this space. Fingers crossed we will have an update on that shortly. I know we keep saying that, but we are trying to figure it out.
I will definitely look into it. I'm writing it down now.
A few shout outs as usual. Followingthenerd.com, which is the show that Stuart also helps out on Thursday nights. He'll be going through the box office top 10, and next week we'll be going through an early review of Planet Earth, untangle my tongue. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I'm just going to call it Dot Potter from now on. That's what it is.
Yes, because Rob Potter was the first one.
Yeah. There's also, as Stuart already mentioned it, From Page to Screen with the number 2, FromPageToScreen.com. And also the Seren Foundation, which is SEREN Foundation.org.uk, is the charity that we do ask you to have a look at and support if you can. So that's it for this week's show. Movie of the week.
I abstain.
You can't abstain. You wouldn't let me abstain if I tried it.
I can't pick one.
Yeah. I'm going to say Grand Budapest Hotel, but I mean, if you like big dumb action, you like the other one, and you're thinking of going to see it, and you're going, maybe I will, maybe I won't, then you might want to consider Transformers. Just go in with lowered expectations, and maybe a cushion so your bum doesn't get numb from sitting there too long. And you might have fun with it. As I said, I enjoyed it. I'm going to see it the second time. You enjoyed it okay-ish, but you're not sure about it, but you're kind of being dragged to see it a second time.
Yes, I know. Kicking and screaming.
That's it though for this week. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week, hopefully same day, probably around about the same time. Until then, enjoy this clip from the movie. We did mention it just now, Dot Potter. If you don't know what that is, then maybe have a look and see what's coming out in a couple of weeks' time. Fairly big film. It's a sequel. You might recognise it. Here's the clip. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You know the scary thing about them? They don't need power. Lights. Heat. Nothing.
Hey, pal.
That's the advantage. That's what makes them stronger.
Malcolm, I'm thinking one of us should stand guard tonight.
Wait, what? They took our guns.
If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already.
Maybe they're just taking their time. They already killed off half the planet already.
Come on.
What?
You can't honestly blame the apes.
Who the hell else am I gonna blame? It was just simian flu.
It was a virus created by scientists in a lab. The chimps they were testing on didn't really have a say in the matter.
Spare me the hippy-dippy bull. You telling me you don't get sick to your stomach at the sight of them? Huh?